Hey everyone, this is Jedi Eternal's very own Braxton Taylor, and on this week's episode we discuss Kevin Feige's movie being canceled, our dream Star Wars games, and review and recap Mando Season 3, Chapter 17 and 18. So sit down, buckle in, and get ready for episode 93. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your favorite podcast in the world, Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast. This is your co-host, Braxton Taylor, alongside Andrew Big Daddy Bolin in the house today.
Big Daddy. That's right. Don't you forget it.
Don't you forget it, folks. I say that because Andrew is about to have his first baby boy. And just in a few short days of recording.
Just in a few days.
Yes.
So preparation is at an all-time high.
Yes. The Bolin house is a buzz.
A buzz. The house is a buzz. If you hear some background noise going on, it's because there's like a bunch of other people here right now helping out, getting things set up, ready to go. And I am not helping. I'm in here doing a podcast.
So, yeah, that shows you where his priorities are. Hey, you know what? Amidst all this, we had to get one out because it's just been busy beforehand. It's going to just be busy.
Yeah, so,
coming up. So.
Yeah, so just to kind of like just put it out on the table.
Yeah.
We will not have another episode for a couple weeks. I think the 30th is when we'll be back to record again. So if you are a Patreon producer, you can get that on the 30th. If not, you'll get that on the Saturday after that, which will be into April.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the reason for that is, of course, by this time next week, I will have a little boy. And
little
so,
baby boy.
I'll be kind of taking a week just to, do those things, be a dad.
Yeah.
And the week after that, you're going on a trip.
Yep.
And
instead, I'm taking no responsibility. I'm going on a trip.
has nothing to do with him becoming a dad.
No.
Not anytime.
It all has something to do with me, right?
But anyway, so it's exciting times. And so, we'll be back when we can, and then we'll talk about all the Mando episodes and all that stuff.
Yes.
But today you have the first two episodes to look forward to, as we are going to review those, discuss those. We're gonna have a good time doing that. I imagine we'll have a lot to say about it. So
I'm sure.
But it's been a while, so we really have a lot we could talk about.
For real.
I tried to narrow it down a little bit. I had tons of news and rumors.
Sometimes it's a little some of it's a little old when you come in, and you probably everyone's already heard about it. It's old news, so it's like no point in really talking about it. But before we do get into that, of course, like we do at every episode, we want to speak for just a short moment about our Patreon. Of course, right now we only have a single tier at $5, and doing that,
what a deal!
What a steal! What a deal! Tell me one thing that you can buy in a single day that's less than $5, right? Come on now. But for real though, it's one tier. It's $5, and that gets you several cool things. Of course, first and foremost, you get all the things that we post for Jedi Eternal at an expedited rate, right? You get it a couple days early. So if that is something that you're interested in, that's pretty good, just right there. Second of all, of course, you become a producer of this podcast, and so we'll get to it, right? Spoiler alert, but both of our podcasts, and that means that you get to have a say in everything that we do. If we have decisions coming up, we're going to ask you first. And you're kind of the first line of defense there for decision making and figuring out what we can do. But last but not least, if none of that else interests you, if you become a patron or a producer, as we like to call you, you actually get access to a whole other podcast. It is called And Other Stuff, that we record at least once a month, and or tried to anyway. And that podcast is about anything and everything. We talk about We talk about video games. We talk about movies. We talk about our personal lives sometimes. We just talk about whatever we feel like talking about. And it's pretty fun over there.
Yeah, our most recent episode, we discussed our trip to Disney World.
Yeah, and to Orlando and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so we get into some shenanigans.
Yeah, we get a little wild on that episode.
We get a little wild and wacky in that episode.
So if you like our shenanigans sometimes, that's a good episode to hop on. But man, that was either episode 9 or 10. I believe it was 9. So we're getting close to 10 episodes. That is up to, if not more than, 10 hours of content.
It definitely would be more.
Oh yeah,
each one of those episodes.
That's true. Never mind.
We're always pushing closer to 2 hours than 1 hour.
So maybe 20 hours of content for only $5 a month. So a lot of good stuff on there. We don't want to harp on it too much, but last but not least, we do have one last thing. We like to always thank all of our patron producers and for those that are currently subscribed each and every episode. So Andrew, who is our patrons?
Yeah, we want to thank Joshin Birkinshaw, otherwise known as JB, our man. Tara Boland, my wonderful wife. Grace and David Gill. Alex Mason. Corey Wise. Jay Camdar. Jenna. Promise, and William.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you to each and every one of you. Seriously, though, we really do appreciate it. Again, that $5, it may not seem like much, and you're like, well, why even do it at all? But it actually really does help. We have different subscriptions and things that we have to pay every single year to even produce a podcast, and that actually almost paid for all of it this year.
Yeah, just having a podcast costs money.
Us money.
So,
yes.
Yes. And so, and that's not even considering all the equipment and things that we have bought to try and better the podcast. So seriously, every little penny helps us reach new and better heights.
And pence for JB. Just kidding. Yeah. Well, kind of not. But anyway, so long story short, we do appreciate it. So we're not going to harp on that too long. So we would invite you to go on over, even if it's just 1 month, just check things out, see if it's something you're interested in.
For sure.
And if not, won't hurt our feelings, and you can just unsubscribe. But if it is something that you like, obviously it's only $5 a month, and you get a lot of fun, cool stuff. So
yeah, I think if you listen to us here, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't at least subscribe 1 month and go and check out those episodes, because we do have a lot of fun. We do talk about all kinds of things, and so if you enjoy listening to us, definitely check it out for $5.
And if you don't, then maybe
I don't know what you're doing here. if you don't, I don't know what you're doing here.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it though,
But
So anyway, let's get into. I think I'm clipping a little bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the news and get into what you're here for. And first and foremost for this week, from a certain point of view, which is kind of a reoccurring a series of books where they explore not necessarily alternate stories, but stories that are running concurrently to a certain movie. There's a lot of really cool stuff that it is canon, right? And it adds to the lore, which is really neat. But this one is coming out is for the Return of the Jedi. So it's kind of ending the original trilogy there. And it is slated to come out September 5th.
Yeah, I can't wait to read From a Certain Point of View, The Phantom Menace in 2039.
Right? Yeah. Or finally get to Revenge of the Sith and on our deathbed.
No, I mean, I've talked about it before on the podcast, but these From a Certain Point of View books have been so cool.
Oh yeah,
the one for A New Hope and the one for Empire Strikes Back, both are so neat, and they add such cool stuff to those movies, that just little things. What's cool about them is, yes, they do always throw in some stories from the big characters that you expect, but then they also create stories for literally a random character that's standing in the background
that you would never even think
that
of,
you would never
right?
even you've never even really thought of. Well, there's a good chance they might decide to put a story in there about him and create a whole storyline of what that guy was doing.
Yeah,
just cool stuff like that.
Right.
But also along with that, they have added some stories that do have the big characters that are very meaningful.
Right.
One that I like to think of is when Obi-Wan is fighting Vader and gets strike down and he turns into a Force ghost. There's a whole story about his transition into that.
Yeah,
and
really
what that means, and even there's another one where it's talking about how Qui-Gon is in the Force, and then they're all, it's all these Force ghosts Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Yoda and and all this stuff. They're kind of, it's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And And so I'm extremely excited about this one.
Yeah.
I think actually on here we have a couple of examples of what some of the stories are going to be. So I'll just read those.
Yeah.
So we have Olivia Blake, who gives us a chilling glimpse into the mind of Emperor Palpatine. So that's always going to be interesting.
It's kind of his final days. So yeah. So we thought anyway.
Saladin Ahmed recounts the tragic history of the Rancor Keeper. Charlie Jane Anders explores the life and times of the Sarlacc.
Ooh.
Fran Wilde reveals Mon Mothma's secret mission to save the Rebel Alliance. Mary Kinney chronicles Wicket the Ewok's quest for one quiet day on the forest moon of Endor. And the one that's most exciting to me out of these previews. And Anakin Skywalker becomes one with the Force in a gripping tale by Mike Chin.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And that was about to say, I didn't even know about those. And I'll say one of the stories I imagine will probably be in there is maybe that transition from light to, or excuse me, dark to light, and stuff. So that's going to be really
one thing
cool.
in Star Wars we've never really gotten yet that I still want.
So surprising.
Is that when Darth Vader dies, or when Anakin dies, whatever you want to say,
right?
And he becomes one with the Force, and he is a Force ghost. I want his perspective on things. I want him. I want his thoughts on what happened and where he is at that point. And like, there's so much to get from that, I think.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we'll get a little bit here. I also think we're gonna get some of that in Ahsoka.
Yeah. Sure.
As we know, Hayden Christensen is gonna be back in that, and from the reports, is that he will be a Force ghost in there.
Yeah.
So, so just really exciting stuff. I think this book will be a great thing to get. What the other interesting thing is, you guys can go look this up. You can see all 40 authors.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, most of these authors are not your big name Star Wars authors.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a few that have written Star Wars books and stuff, but a large majority of these are not your like Star Wars authors that have been publishing books lately, like your Charles Soule and your Claudia Gray, and like they were in previous ones, but they're not in this one.
Yeah, so that's very interesting because and sometimes I like that, right? I mean, maybe not going into the final ultimate book for the original trilogy, but to some degree, I think it's cool because it, like we've talked about in other projects too, like for instance with Visions, you get to explore how certain people interpret Star Wars, and we get used to these big name authors, and we want them a lot of times because we come to expect what they can provide, and so we like that consistency.
Yeah.
But like I said, especially in this format, right? If they're telling new stories, it would be, like big time stories in movies. Okay, I don't know. But in terms of a certain point of view standpoint where they're going to be creating their own new little just side shoot things, like I think that's going to be really unique. So
yeah,
definitely.
So plan to get that. It comes out in September. I think pre-orders are up now. I'll definitely be getting it. I'm sure we'll talk about it when it is released and kind of the stories that are must reads. But super exciting. But let's go ahead and move on. And this is a big one. And we decided to put this in as news because of the source by Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
We have come to believe the Hollywood Reporter reports on things once they're
fairly certain. Yeah.
Pretty certain.
Yeah.
So we feel confident talking on this. And that is that Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie killed at studio.
Wow.
So we're going to really kind of dive in deep here. But before I even talk about that, I want to talk about something else that's also in this report. And that is that we have, they actually talk about Rogue Squadron. Okay. So Rogue Squadron, Patty Jenkins, is set to direct that. And as you know, it kind of just like they stopped talking about it, and then we heard that it wasn't going to happen, right? In September of last year, Disney pulled that title from its scheduled December 2023 release, and basically they said they had went ahead and gone different ways, and then they changed the next Star Wars movie time to be December of 2025. So we've already had a movie that was scheduled for 2023, got the block, okay, and got cut off, and then They pushed it back to 2025. Well, now they're saying that the movie produced by Kevin Feige is also no longer in active development at Lucasfilm.
Wow.
And so, as we know, Feige had hired, Kevin Feige, of course, if you don't know who that is, he is essentially the guy over the MCU, okay?
It's kind of like the creative director.
He's like the creative director.
Right?
Yeah, he's kind of the, he is looking at the big picture of all of the MCU,
right.
and a lot of people have accredited him to the success of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he's got a lot on his plate. And so the idea of him doing a Star Wars movie was always kind of odd.
Yeah,
people
exactly.
wanted it because he's successful.
He's
his track
proven
record,
to, right.
So people wanted it, but it never necessarily made a ton of sense, right?
Yeah.
And so my guess is probably that they had him, saying he was going to do one, but he was probably just too busy. He probably never
right.
really was able to get anything done. And finally, he was like, you know what?
I'm not going to be able to put the time and effort that it needs to
I can't do this.
Yeah.
The MCU has been a little bit on the struggle bus lately. So, right. Maybe he's thinking, maybe I need to just keep focusing on getting this on the right track, not worry about Star Wars, because that's a whole nother thing, right? So, whatever it may be, they're saying it's no longer in active development.
Yeah.
And we had talked about how that seemed like the most likely of projects that was coming next, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is kind of alarming. So the first big question I would ask from this is, do you think that this means that now December 2025 is not even going to happen? Do you think this gets pushed back another 2 years?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, but with this news, it does make you feel that way. Here's the thing. And we talked about this on previous episodes and stuff. It's like Star Wars needs to get their head screwed on straight right now. You know what I'm saying? Like we talk. I can't remember when we talked about this. I think it may have been that live stream or was the previous episode, one of the two. But I had basically said, and I'll say it again now, is that I think people are starting to get a little worn down with TV shows, right? I think people are getting a little worn down with the same format, the same style over and over and over. And don't get me wrong, the Disney Plus era of these shows has been great. We've gotten a lot of great stuff, some mediocre stuff, some bad stuff, but we've gotten some good stuff that I've really enjoyed. I think we've all really liked.
But it's kind of lost its excitement
exactly,
a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Because it's become something we kind of come to expect.
Yeah.
It
basically it lacks that foundational feeling. Like it's like the brevity, the epicness of a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like when you watch a movie, this is setting the tone for the next, batch of Star Wars. It's projecting what's to come, and with these shows, it's just kind of like they're their own individual things and they kind of exist within their own realm, which is not quite true, right? They do intermingle, but it still feels like that because it's a show. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so long story short, I just kind of reiterate what I said. It's like, I think that especially if they push it back past 2020, 2025, people are just going to start dropping off. I think that people are going to be like, you've lost your vision, you've lost what has made Star Wars good, and they're just going to start dropping off, even if they create good shows. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want to do it personally. I don't think I necessarily would, just because of our position, but it's like, at the same time, I think it's inevitable. So I think they'd be stupid to drop it off after 2025. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and I've talked about this a little bit, but during some of the Book of Boba Fett and more recently the Bad Batch season 2, I have felt a little bit of what I guess you'd call Star Wars fatigue.
Yeah.
It kind of blew me away watching the Book of Boba Fett that I was like, here I am watching live action Star Wars.
Right.
With the return of Boba Fett.
Getting his story. Yeah.
And like all these things. And it's like, and I'm kind of just like not feeling it right now.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there was some really good parts in it that ended up being in that. But there were points where I was kind of like, eh. And it's like, I don't want to feel that way about Star Wars.
Exactly.
And it's kind of a weird place to be in, right? And then I think about the movies, And we went and watched. Of course, we watched all of the sequel trilogy movies together when they came out in theater.
Right.
And like when we watched The Rise of Skywalker, we came out of that thing hyped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, looking back, we didn't even love the movie that much, but it didn't matter.
It didn't matter at the time because it was a big bombastic movie with it was an event.
It was
right?
an event.
It was the next Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And so it was a big moment and we enjoyed it. We had fun.
Right.
Yeah. Now looking back critically, well, we weren't the biggest fans of it and still not the biggest fans of it, but there was still an excitement level because of what it was and what we expected.
Yeah.
Where
I just waited 2 years to get this. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly. Yeah, we waited a long time and don't get me wrong, I love getting Star Wars weekly. I think it's great. I love The Mandalorian. I love what I've seen so far from The Mandalorian season 3.
Right.
And which granted, we've waited a while to actually get Mandalorian season 3. Right, season 2 was 2021, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been a little bit.
But like you said, though, here's the thing: instead of having that wait to get to Mandalorian season 2 to 3, we have 3 or 4 different shows that's come in between there, whether it be live action or animated, and so it continues to itch that part of your brain. And if you itch a spot on your body too long, it starts to hurt.
Yeah. Well, and that, and that's what's crazy is like we had Mando 2. And the last episode of Mando season 2, we absolutely lost our minds.
Oh yeah.
Remember? Yeah. I mean, remember how just insanely crazy it was?
Yeah.
And that was cool, right? That was such a cool moment to experience it together and everything was so cool. But then, we got since then we got Book of Boba Fett and it was like, we got Obi-Wan Kenobi, and unfortunately what was supposed to be in our heads the peak of Star Wars.
Literally.
And it was a little You know? There's, don't get me wrong, again, parts I love of it, but would I call it like the peak of Star Wars? No,
like
unfortunately.
What we were hoping it would be. Yeah.
And then, you got, Andor, which, I know you weren't as big of a fan of.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Andor, but I didn't come to Andor every week with the excitement I come with.
Sure.
For The Mandalorian.
Sure.
Or what I have came to with The Mandalorian. And so again, it's like we have so much Star Wars now that it can be dangerous. And the MCU has gone down the same road.
Exactly.
That's what we're experiencing, this MCU fatigue right now.
Oh yeah.
With all the shows they've been releasing on Disney Plus and continuing to release a bunch of movies.
Right.
And now without what I think most people would agree were the best characters.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people that would argue with me on that, but some of the core main characters that people absolutely adored about the MCU are no longer part of the MCU.
Sure. Yeah.
And so now you don't have those, and they're pushing out all this stuff, and people are kind of like, I think we could use a break.
Oh yeah.
Well,
especially like I said, and luckily Star Wars has not gotten to the point that Marvel has. But Marvel, I mean, they have all their shows that are running, their mainline shows, and then they're constantly releasing new little animated things and new little mini series and sub series and micro series, and it's like. Yeah.
And Star Wars hasn't reached that yet.
Thankfully.
But it's the path they're taking, though, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think that's where we're headed.
It's still all Disney, right?
It's still all Disney and even though, yes, the MCU has, phase 4 of the MCU did not go so hot. There were some movies in that did well, or that reviewed well, but there were some that a lot of people would consider to be stinkers. And
that's a great way to put it, yeah.
And so I think that, Star Wars isn't there yet, but it can head down that. And the MCU might bounce back. I think there's a good chance of it, actually. But I just don't want to see Star Wars get to a point where people are just like, ugh,
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's like, not even just for us, but I don't want people to get that image. And just like, how to say this? Like, I don't want it for myself. Yeah. But as a Star Wars, I don't want to say I'm an influencer, but I'm a Star Wars... I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm like not responsible for Star Wars, but I don't know how to convey what I feel. Do you get what I'm saying? At least a little bit.
Yeah. No, I do.
As a podcaster, as someone who brings the news for Star Wars, as someone who's like okay, just in my personal life, there's anyone that has a question about Star Wars always comes to me because they know I have a podcast.
Exactly.
I know, you know. So I guess my point is, as someone who, I'm just going to use this word because it's not right, but it's the only thing I think of. Is like, as a Star Wars influencer, right? Mm-hmm. I would hate for other people to get a bad taste in their mouth about Star Wars, because, you know, for me and for you and for a lot of people who are listening who are hardcore Star Wars fans, we're gonna still love Star Wars.
Right.
We're still gonna, you know, be like excited when something comes out, but maybe not as much as it would be if we got rid of this fatigue a little bit and we're more excited for like a movie, whatever. But for some people who are just very casual Star Wars fans, they're gonna get this fatigue, and then they're gonna have a bad taste in their mouth, and they're just gonna be like, I don't want to see anything of Star Wars. I don't even really care now, because it's just, it's probably just like that little show I saw the other day, and it wasn't that good.
There's more blue people in it.
That's a deep cut right there.
That's a deep cut for you long listeners.
Yeah. So long story short, I just like, as someone who's seeing it from the inside, I don't want it to get to this point where Marvel's has gotten it, and it's like I said, it's heading there. But I think we're talking about this maybe a little too long. But
yeah, we definitely are. But you know, it's been a while since we've been on the podcast, so we're kind of rambling.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about that whole thing is that this does make you wonder. We had heard reports that at Celebration this year they were going to announce the next kind of plan for Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
So with what we're hearing here, do you think that's still the case?
I don't know.
Now,
I really don't know.
I will say, you know, there is the Damon Lindelof written Star Wars movie that we've talked about as well. And this was not in this report, but maybe that is the one that will be coming next.
Yeah.
And then there is the Taika Waititi movie. And in this report, it did talk about him a little bit.
Yeah.
Specifically that he is still working on it, still wants to do it. He also wants to star in it.
Yeah.
So, so I think that tells you whatever it ends up being, it's going to be pretty wacky because he likes to be in those really,
it's going to be zany at best.
Yeah. He likes to be, you know, one of those little silly guys.
Yeah.
Little silly Billy.
Another Korg. That's what we need.
Yeah.
A Star Wars Korg.
Exactly. Star Wars Korg, yeah.
He's a Porg. And
so he's going to be a Porg.
Yeah. That's what it is.
A talking Porg.
Yeah. Yeah, well, anyway. See, the main character is going to feel like they're going crazy, and there's going to be a little Porg that follows him around, and it's going to be him.
Yeah, it's going to be the plot of Detective Pikachu, but it's going to be Star Wars.
Yeah.
Instead of Ryan Reynolds, it's going to be Taika Waititi.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway.
And Baby Yogurt.
Baby Yogurt. Oh, well, we're just going crazy here. It's so funny because, you know, obviously, for the longest time, people knew Baby Yogurt Grogu as the child. Like, that was the official name. Yeah. And so colloquially, anyway, you know what I'm saying? People named him Baby Yoda. And clearly it was like in the contract that Pedro Pascal could not call him Baby Yoda because it was not his name, and it would confuse fans. So he's like, you know, anyway, it was just so funny because I saw like this video on YouTube or TikTok or whatever it was. It was like he's like he showed a cut. It was like, and his name is Grogu. You know, it's not Baby Yoda, it's Grogu. And then like it cuts to him in an interview, and he's like, so is Baby Yoda? He's like, yeah, Baby Yoda. And he's like, oh. And he's just like, I'm not allowed to say that. But anyway, I digress. Funny. I don't know where I was even going with that. But so yeah, let's get on to our final piece of news for this week. And that is Star Wars Celebration in London, England. It has its main panels being revealed. So I don't know where you have yours at. I have StarWarsNews.net or StarWarsNewsNet.com, excuse me. So Friday, there's only a few of them here. The main one being the Lucasfilms Studio Showcase.
Yeah, and just to kind of throw in there that the main panels of Celebration typically can kind of give us an idea of kind of where we're headed, what's to come with Star Wars. You get an idea of what they're focusing on, right? Yeah. And so I just wanted to say that before you go through
No,
this.
Absolutely.
And with the showcase, I was there last year. I watched the showcase, and the showcase showed trailers for things that we did know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also it was also things, a few surprises.
Right.
And so my guess here with this showcase, and I think maybe it does say a couple things that's like it's for sure going to talk about, doesn't it?
So this description says that Star Wars Celebration returns, launching the must-see showcase that will kick the weekend's festivity into hyperdrive. Lucasfilm's current crop of live-action filmmakers will be joined by special guests to discuss the many current and upcoming Star Wars adventures, including The Mandalorian, Andor, and more.
Yeah, so, it's going to have a thing about Mando Season 3.
Naturally.
That's going on. It's going to have something about that. Again, it mentions Andor. They may officially say, and Season 2 is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a tiny little teaser for Season 2 because we know they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're going to have something for Ahsoka. I would hope an official trailer and release date for Ahsoka.
Yeah. Do you expect that in the showcase, the beginning showcase?
I expect that in the showcase.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I expect that in the showcase. There's an Ahsoka panel later, right?
The next day, yeah. That's why I said that.
I think so. If they do it like or if they do it like last year,
yeah,
they showed a trailer for Mando Season 3, and then at the Mandalorian panel they showed a longer one.
Okay, so yeah, and maybe 2019 when we went was a bit different because I thought the showcase was more of just like here's what's currently going on, and here's what's coming soon, but we're not going to give you that much information.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's been so long. It's been so long.
But I'm just basing
years.
this off of what they did last year. They showed a trailer for Mando Season 3, and then when you went to the panel, they're like, oh, and actually there's a much longer trailer. And because the trailer at the panel for Mando was way longer. Yeah. Showed way more. I think they're going to do something similar.
Okay.
And so, but I really hope that we get an idea of like, even if they don't give us the exact release date, if they just say like, and it's coming in summer or in the fall or whatever, right? I would like them
just
to
some
give us
general time frame,
some general information on that.
And I'll just say this, and this is probably a long shot here, but if there is any listeners that happen to be at the Star Celebration London, please let us know your thoughts. If you hear anything cool, let us know.
Seriously, if we have any listeners that are going,
even one day or anything, what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely let us know, and we will if you're willing, we'll like use you as a reporter for Jedi Eternal.
Absolutely,
and that would be amazing. So let us know.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate that.
And so also the next thing that I think of, it would be the Acolyte. Right?
Sure.
So I think that we may see a short teaser for the Acolyte. Now, last year with Ahsoka, we saw small little clips and pictures of Ahsoka. So in my mind, the Acolyte, we might get something similar for the Acolyte where we get some glimpses, but probably not tons of information yet.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Last year during the showcase, we also saw a couple of pictures for Skeleton Crew. So I would expect we'll get more on Skeleton Crew, but maybe this time, maybe a trailer.
Yeah.
Or maybe a teaser trailer or something.
I feel like there's going to be something.
Of that nature. Of course, I think we're getting Ahsoka first. So, whatever we get of Ahsoka, we'll get less of for Skeleton Crew, but I still think we'll get something, right?
Yeah.
Because last year we only got just like a couple of still images and that was it. And it didn't show much at all.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they may show a little something for Visions Volume 2. But the unknown is where I do want to kind of throw out a couple things for you real quick. One of those being, there's been so many rumors about movies. So will they release or will they announce a movie during this showcase? Now, something else to remember with Celebration is we see their panels here, but often they don't reveal a couple of them till after their showcase is over.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, oh, and there's also a panel for this that you didn't know about until, for example, Tales of the Jedi. They announced Tales of the Jedi at Celebration, and then they added a a panel where you get to go watch the first episode. But that panel wasn't even on there until then.
Right.
So.
Here's the thing. As I've regurgitated multiple times here, I think it would be stupid if they did not do something active in the movie realm. I think it would just be asinine. I think it'd be stupid. I think it'd be a bad decision. So yeah, I would go out on a limb and say that there's going to be something. I can't really say what yet.
Okay.
But I feel like there's going to be at least some announcement of some sort of a movie that's going to be there.
I think they're making a huge mistake if they don't.
Yeah.
I think they have to let us know as fans that there is some idea of a plan.
Right.
Because all we're hearing is the opposite. All we're hearing is they're canceling everything and throwing everything away. Which, don't get me wrong, if it's a bad thing, I don't want them to do it. True. I would rather them take their time and make sure they get it right.
Yeah.
But give us some kind of update. Because you've told us about movies. Kathleen Kennedy's got up there and said, and this movie's happening, and this, blah, blah, blah. And then we don't hear anything. And that just isn't cool.
Yeah, and as someone who's in this, right, in this world, you know, I probably don't study up as much as I even probably should, but like right now, I don't really have a confident idea as of what kind of movies are still up and what's not. You know, I mean, I have an idea of some of them, you know what I'm saying? But like, there's so little communication about this side of things that I'm just lost. So this would be the 100% perfect opportunity if they were ever going to do it, to clear some of this up and say, this is what's coming up next. Here's his timeline, a rough timeline, like, you know, but here is what you can expect. Here's a little more detail about the first movie that's coming up. Something.
And the only other thing that I wanted to throw out that could be, you know, out of left field that no one's really expecting, but they might possibly do. Yeah. And that would be a Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2.
Ooh, that would be a big drop. It'd be
a big drop. And we know Hayden and Ewan McGregor both are going to be there. Yeah. They're both going to be at Celebration.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, granted, they could just be there to, you know.
Well, and they've been in a show recently. They just
were in a show last year, so that could be the only reason they're there.
Yeah.
But they could also be there with the announcement of a season.
And they could really tweak and work on some of the things that were missing or not as great in the first season. That would be, I mean, I would be up for that.
So, anyway. So we'll see. But, yeah, so you want to go ahead and read off the other ones real quick?
So there's 2 more for Friday, and they're pretty minor. So London Calling, designing Star Wars productions in the UK, and then making of Andor season 1. So nothing huge, right?
Which they might give us a little bit more idea of a season 2 during that panel of the making of season 1, because they will have Diego Luna there and the executive producer Tony Gilroy. So that could be also
but I wouldn't expect a whole lot.
No.
Now, so that is the last one for Friday. Saturday, April 8th. The very first one is, again, pretty big one, right? And that is the Ahsoka panel.
Yeah.
So join executive producers Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and special guests for a look at the upcoming Disney Plus series.
Yeah,
Ahsoka.
so I think you'll get to watch a trailer for this.
Sure.
We'll have a trailer set up.
So if anybody's there, please smuggle your phone in and
record it. Send it to us. Risk getting kicked out for our personal gain.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that. We'll shout you on the podcast.
We may be lucky, though. This may be the trailer that gets shown publicly, because last year, Andor, when they showed the Andor trailer, they released that one publicly.
Yeah.
The Ahsoka stuff they showed and the Mando stuff they showed, they didn't. But Andor they did, because Andor was like the next... Or, well, was it the next one? No, I guess it wasn't the next one. I don't know. No, I guess, it would have been the next live action series.
Ahsoka?
No, Andor. At Celebration, Andor would have been the next live action series.
I'm blanking what you said. Yes,
because Kenobi aired, like, at Celebration.
Yes.
So the next live action series after that was Andor.
Yeah.
So they showed a public trailer. So I'm thinking Ahsoka is most likely the next one. So we might get, when they drop that trailer at Celebration, hopefully we get that publicly.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah. I agree. So anyway, so that's a big one there. Of course, again, there's some smaller ones here, in between here and there. So bringing worlds to life, the concept of artists of ILM. Again, nothing to expect huge there, but it's always really cool if you're interested in that thing. Star Wars: The High Republic. So this one says, centuries before the Skywalker Saga, there was the High Republic, joining luminous authors for in-depth conversation about epic new tales spanning books, comics, audio, and beyond, including all new announcements and reveals from Star Wars: The High Republic Phase 2, and a sneak peek of what's to come in Phase 3. So that's a big one, right?
Yeah, that'll be a big one. It was a pretty big panel last year. They revealed a bunch about Phase 2 at that panel.
Yeah.
So I imagine that we will. They say in this. They say reveal about Phase 2, but everything about Phase 2 has basically been revealed.
Yeah.
I think what they're really going to do is show us, about Phase 3.
Which they to keep people's interest, they really need to do.
Yes.
Really need to do.
They really need to do that because in my eyes, Phase 2 has kind of been somewhat of a failure.
Yeah, it's been flat.
Yeah, it's not been near as exciting. And I think along with most other people, I'm just waiting to get back to Phase 3 so we can continue with the characters we started with and cared about. And
yeah, I totally agree. And as soon as I heard the announcement that Phase 2 was going back in time even further, I already knew that was probably inevitable. So anyway, so the next thing is actually pretty cool. Is that basically a celebration, right, of 40 years of Return of the Jedi. So basically in 2019 and then in 2022 or whatever. Basically, they were celebrating the anniversaries of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and then now this year, 40 years of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, so 2019, we were there for the A New Hope one, right? Which was cool.
Yes.
Then there... Oh, wait, were we? Is that right? Was that 2019?
I thought it was. Yeah, because 1979... would have been the movie coming out, so makes sense, right? 2019 would have been one of the anniversaries.
Because I was thinking it was when we were there, it was the 20th anniversary of The Phantom Menace.
Oh, that does sound right, actually.
Yeah, and then Empire Strikes Back was the year Celebration got canceled.
Hold on, I'm thinking I'm an idiot here. Hold on.
So I don't think it was. I don't think we were there.
1978. So it would have been 2018.
Yeah, so we weren't there.
I'm a goofball.
But yeah, so this will be a great one. I hope they get I hope they get Mark Hamill and
that'd be cool.
And Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill both would be cool.
Oh yeah.
And of course Anthony Daniels, he'll be there.
He'll be there for every single thing.
I love Anthony Daniels at Celebration. He is just the best. He's he's all about being with the fans. He is like, where the other ones, like, you don't know if they'll be around or not.
Sure.
Like, you can guarantee he's going to be there and he's going to have fun.
He's going to have fun with it.
He's going to have lots of fun.
Yeah, that was one thing that was just really memorable about Chicago Celebration was that Anthony Daniels, like, he just brought such a joyful life to every panel he was with.
Yeah.
And, like, again, with the one that was specifically centered around him because of his, at that time, new book release. I mean, that was one of the things that he said. He's like, this was a big opportunity for me. And second of all, not even just about me, but I know how my character affected people around the world, how much they loved him. It's like, so I will always be there. Like, if someone needs a voice for C-3PO, I will be there to do it. If there's a Star Wars event, I will be there.
He was there for the very first one.
Yeah.
He was one of the only, like, real big names that went to the very first celebration.
Yeah, which was like in Indianapolis or something crazy.
Something
right?
crazy.
It was either Indianapolis or Colorado. Is one of the two.
Well, but one was in Indianapolis. One of the first ones. Yeah. Man, I wish we would have.
I know. I wish I would have thought about that. Which I think we would have been pretty young.
We would have been young. Yeah. I don't know exactly what year it was, but we would have been young.
Yeah.
But anyway. It's he's always a lot of fun, and also in his panel this past year, he was still promoting his book. So.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a few years old, but hey, if that's your big thing, then you just got to hang on to that. So that would have been really fun. I would have loved to go to this panel. Rip. And if anybody wants to fly us out last minute, we'll do it. So Disney, if you're listening, Star Wars, you're listening, or a rich fan, we'll take that too. So anyway, next one up is just Star Wars Creator Cosplay Workshop. Then there's Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures screening. So looks like you're going to be able to watch the first 2 episodes of the Young Jedi Adventures.
Can't wait to see I guess I won't see it, but all the grown men sitting in there watching the Young Jedi Adventures screening.
Critiquing it. Yeah.
They're all dripping sweat, and they just ate like 3 hot dogs.
A lightsaber-shaped hot dogs. Anyway, yes. I'm just leave that one alone. So the next one is Hasbro's Star Wars and Indiana Jones panel, which is kind of interesting. They're bringing that in, which, I mean, I know Indiana Jones is coming out this year, but anyway, I digress. There's Creature Cantina, which is Neil Scanlon's Creature Cantina, responsible for the creation of the droids. Anyway,
yeah, I think it's just how, like, showing how they made them and stuff.
Here's what's pretty cool: Clone Wars 15-year anniversary panel. Join Dave Filoni, Athena Portillo, Matthew Wood, D. Bradley Baker, Ashley Eckstein, Matt Lanter, and James Arnold Taylor for a look back into the beginning of Lucasfilm's animation and how Star Wars Clone Wars came to be. That would be a really fun panel. I would have loved to go.
Yeah, I bet that one will be really cool.
Yeah, that would be really awesome.
And I'll be curious to see if they have anything to tease there.
Yeah.
Maybe even a second season of Tales of the Jedi or something.
Oh, that could be a good place to drop it.
Yeah.
So that concludes Saturday. Next day is Sunday. The first one is Villains of the Sequel Trilogy. Again, something that's not probably huge, but...
Yeah, I think that will actually be a good one, though, just because you're going to have Ian McDermott and Andy Serkis there.
Yeah.
I think the two of them,
yeah,
having them just discussing it would be really cool.
I totally agree. Next one is Behind the Magic, the visual effects of Andor. Again, not one that has going to have any drops or anything, but it would still be fun to go check out. There's Hyperspace Stories, Dark Horse Comics returns. So that would be pretty neat for all you comic lovers out there. A look back at Obi-Wan Kenobi is the next panel. And so Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Indira Varma, and Vivian Lyra Blair will all be there, which would be a pretty cool panel.
Oh, yeah. Be cool. But also, I hope... Again, that maybe
there's some announcement
there's
there
going to be some kind of
season
tease
2
or something.
Yeah.
I know I said we didn't need one, but just leave me alone.
A man can hope. Andrew's addiction, Funko Collect Across the Galaxy.
No. This is a good thing I'm not going.
Oh yeah, he's a guy with addiction.
Bad.
Next one is something, again, I absolutely love no matter what convention I go to, and I just wish I could go to this one. Star Wars cosplay competition. Obviously it can be kind of goofy. Sometimes it's really good, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's going to be kind of goofy. But at a celebration, the cosplay competitions are pretty good.
So we go to Comic Cons all over America, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen some pretty rough ones. And because, we went to some smaller cons that, I mean, people are trying their best, but we've seen some pretty goofy stuff,
we've seen some
right?
pretty goofy,
but Celebration, like,
I mean, it's top notch.
It is absolutely insane, the cosplays you see at Celebration, because you got people coming from
all over the world
that are actually really, really good at it, and like I assume there's probably like some vetting going on and stuff too. So everything you see there is like top notch. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one is Disney Parks, where Star Wars came to life, and them, they're just kind of talking about the different Disney Imagineering and things that occurred in Galaxy's Edge and things of that nature. Next one is Beyond the Spires, making of Tales from the Galaxy's Edge.
That's the VR game.
Yeah. So again, nothing huge there, but it'd be kind of interesting to check it out. Star Wars Animation Game Night. That's interesting. This is pretty cool, though. Watch as Ashley Eckstein, D. Bradley Baker, James Arnold Taylor, Matthew Wood, and Matt Lanter compete in feats of knowledge, skill, and luck to prove who is the ultimate Star Wars fan. That'd actually be pretty fun.
I bet they'll have a good time with that.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty fun. And the last one for Sunday is Lucasfilm Publishing, Stories from a Galaxy Far, Far Away.
Yeah, that'll be everything that's Star Wars books, comics that are not related to the High Republic. So we'll probably get some new announcements, new cover art, that kind of thing there. And
so Monday, which is the final day, April 10th, the first panel is Star Wars The Bad Batch.
Yeah. Again, I assume we'll get probably Season 3 announcement there.
Yeah, most likely. Not a whole lot to say there. Next one is Make Mine Marvel Star Wars. Again, just kind of more like a fun thing. Apparently it does say including all new announcements and reveals from a galaxy far, far away, but anyway. Next one is From Screen to Tabletop, and again, this kind of goes into the games and the miniature games, right, that they have. And so for those of you who like to play that, it'd be kind of fun. we actually have a panel dedicated to Star Wars Visions Volume 2. So yeah, like again, for those of you who are curious as to what this is going to look like, that would be a pretty fun panel to check out. And I'm sure they're going to have some, probably some scenes that you're going to see, some clips of the different episodes. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say you might get your first look at maybe an episode or two.
Yeah,
because usually there's at least one show that gets you get to watch a full episode.
Right.
So that might happen there, but I think we can pretty much stop there. The rest of them aren't that special. Those are the last of the big ones. So I'm pained that I can't be there this year because I really wanted Celebration to become a thing that I try to always be at.
Right. Traveling internationally is the limit.
Right.
It gets a little difficult.
Gets a little difficult and really expensive. And just doing California was expensive enough, trust me.
Yeah.
So,
that's why I couldn't go.
What they're saying, this is not 100% confirmed, but what they're saying is that the next Celebration will be in 2025.
Ooh, yeah.
So
skipping a year.
We're going to skip a year and then have 2025 Celebration, and I will be there as long as it's in America, which I think it will be.
Please come back to Chicago.
I think
just
that
for our closeness.
my guess is that it will either be in Chicago or Orlando.
Yeah.
I was actually really thinking it will probably be Orlando because Orlando is the
last time they cycled to Europe, right?
Right. They haven't done Orlando in a while. They already did Anaheim again. They did Chicago. So it's kind of like Orlando's turn.
Hey, I wouldn't mind going back to Orlando, baby. You mean you can go back to Orlando?
I mean, I'm 100% if it's in America, I'm going in 2025. So.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, so we have harped on that way too long, but that does conclude our news for this week. So again,
can you tell we haven't done this in a while again?
we have a lot of pent up Star Wars discussion.
Yeah.
So sorry. So anyway, that concludes our news. Let's go ahead into our rumors. We only have for your sake, we only have 2 this week.
You're welcome.
And the first one is that Jon Favreau he basically states that post-sequel trilogy stories are coming. And so this is a rumor, though. So Drew, what do we have on that? Why is this a rumor?
So the reason I put this in rumor is because Jon Favreau can say whatever he wants, but in the end, he's not really making those decisions.
Right.
And he is focused on his Mandoverse. So he can say that things can be said, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it truly happens and that we get it. But this is what he had to say when they asked him about if there was anything that was going to be past the sequel trilogy. He said there's definitely a conversation that is going on. And then also what happens after the sequel trilogy, because the sequel trilogy only takes place over the course of a few years. And it's a big thing on the screen, and it is very eventful. But it is a relatively brief moment in history over the course of the thousands of years that Star Wars takes place. And so what happens after it is interesting, too. And I know that there's some discussion, exploration going on about what happens after it.
Right. So, I mean, as sources go, Jon Favreau is a big head, he's but at the same time, I mean, he is, as you already stated, he can say whatever he wants, but that doesn't mean that it's a reality.
Right. Well, and he just said there's a conversation going on.
Right.
That doesn't mean
that it's,
that doesn't mean we are getting stuff after the sequel trilogy, even though, I mean, eventually it's going to happen. Eventually we're going to get it, right? Yeah. It's a matter of when, not if.
Right. 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 Exactly.
And so, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I want it. I don't know if I care.
Yeah.
I think what we got going on in the Mandoverse, this time after Return of the Jedi is far more interesting to me than what happens after the sequel trilogy, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think, we'll get to it, and, maybe Rey will be a part, maybe she won't. Maybe Palpatine comes back again, or maybe he doesn't.
Somehow he came back a third time.
Maybe it'll be announced in Fortnite. Maybe it won't be. I don't know.
We get our first sneak peek in Fortnite live event. Yeah.
But it's I'm just not that concerned about it right now, and that's all I have to say.
That's all I have to say too. Yeah, take us to our final rumor, Drew. Take us to our final rumor.
I will absolutely do that because I forgot and I didn't have it pulled up. The final rumor is that the Ahsoka Disney Plus show gets new release date window. So this is coming per a report from Variety, which is actually pretty decent source, but I just kind of put it in rumors anyway because that's just what I felt like doing. But they say that Ahsoka is set to premiere on Disney Plus in late summer, August or September of 2023.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, that kind of lines up with what we were already thinking.
So that's kind of what we have been saying all along. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of reports had been saying it was going to be in later, like towards the end of the year. And as we, again, have talked about, if Skeleton Crew is truly going to come out this year, like they keep saying, then Ahsoka has to come out in the summer.
Right, like late summer at latest, yeah.
At latest, because if you're expecting Ahsoka to be like a November, December, or not Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew to be like in November, December,
right?
Then you have to have already, I mean, Ahsoka's has to already have been done and like had a good gap in between.
Sure, yeah.
And so I think that's the only way that happens. Otherwise, I think we get Ahsoka later towards that November or towards later in the fall.
And Skeleton Crew
is a 2024 early release, right?
Yeah, kind of like Mando has been, right? For this year.
Exactly, anyway. Kind of like that. So I don't know which one it's going to be, but I think, you know, hopefully, again, like I said earlier, I hope Celebration reveals kind of this for sure.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I think this would be great. I would be very excited.
Yeah.
Again,
absolutely.
I'm very pumped for this Ahsoka show.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I think that Favreau and Filoni know what we want.
Yeah.
They know what people have been wanting. They know what people have been waiting for when it comes to Ahsoka and her team of rebels. Okay.
Our posse.
And they know what we've been waiting on. They know we want to see Ezra. They know we want to see Thrawn. They know we want to see all these things, and I think they're going to deliver. And also, we know they're bringing back Hayden Christensen. Like,
I mean, it's a big deal.
You know what I mean?
Right?
Like, there's a lot of big
Yeah.
stuff going on within this, and you know, there's even the chance that like Luke Skywalker could show up again.
There's it's not an impossibility.
There's not a it's not. Yeah, I mean, there's so many opportunities here to connect with things that we've already been loving with Mando, but also to include some Clone Wars in there, which Mando's been doing that too. But you know, some of that prequel stuff, but also connecting to the original trilogy. It's just it's a masterpiece set in motion here. If we can get it right, it could be the best Star Wars we've gotten yet, as far as like shows go. It could be if they do it right. But that is going to be the question. Now, I have a lot of faith in Favreau and Filoni. I do. So let's get it done.
Let's get it done, boys.
Let's get it done. Get her done.
Get her done.
I'm going to turn the light on. So you go ahead and keep talking. I'm going to turn the light on.
Well, no, it's your turn. So
you want to go turn the light on?
Yeah.
Okay, you go turn the light on.
It's your turn to talk anyway. So.
Yeah, sorry. So now we're going to go ahead over to our Star Wars releases, because we do have some releases coming up. And I've been reading. I just got the new Star Wars book. What's it called? Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars.
Yeah.
And so that is set in between Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor.
Oh, okay. So kind of bridges the gap there a little bit.
Yeah. And so I just started reading it. I'm not very far at all, so I'm not going to really give any thoughts on it just yet.
It's only about 100 pages in, so.
Honestly, no, I have not gotten to read it like I normally, can go through a book because, baby coming and stuff. But anyway, it's set. It's about 2-ish years after Fallen Order and about 2-ish years before Survivor. So we're like smack dab in the middle, and it has the whole crew. And as we know, from what teases and stuff of what we've seen for Survivor, a lot of things have changed by the time of Survivor. And this book is supposed to kind of start to set some of these events off and how it ends up where they are in Survivor. So if you're a fan of Jedi Fallen Order, I'd recommend you grab the book. If you plan to play Survivor, it'd be a great book to kind of get yourself primed and ready.
Oh,
They delayed the game 6 weeks, so you have time to get it now and get the book read before the game comes out in late April. So
yeah, absolutely.
So anyways, with Star Wars books, we do have the High Republic Adventures. This is one of the new Dark Horse comics that is coming out on March 15th. It's the 3rd issue. And then we have Yoda, issue number 5. I've loved these Yoda comics they're doing. It was really great. The first like arc in that, he goes to this village, and because these people like needed help, so he goes there and he helps them, but then he decides he's gonna stay there. He calls the Jedi Council, and the council's like, are you gonna come back? Do you need it here? And he was just basically like, no, I'm gonna stay here.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, he's like, if you really need me, you can call me, but like, I'm gonna stay here. And they're just like,
okay,
Yoda.
Yoda.
You know, like, Yoda, he just does his own thing. He knows
bro.
what's best, and so it's just funny. You really get to see just Yoda, just like in his best nature in that series. So it's fun.
That's awesome.
Then March 22nd. I'm going to go a little farther out because of we're going to be gone for a little bit here. So March 22nd, we have the High Republic Adventures issue number 4. We also have Darth Vader issue number 32. And also, of course, through this time, we're going to be getting episodes of The Bad Batch and episodes of The Mandalorian on Wednesdays. Those are going to be continue to come out. There are no breaks. I believe that both shows are continuing on every week until they're over. So, March 29th, we have the High Republic, The Blade, issue number 4. That's been a really cool series so far. We also get Return of the Jedi, Jabba's Palace, issue number 1. The High Republic, issue number 7. Yeah, and that's all that we'll have coming out before we meet back up again, Braxton, to talk some more Star Wars. So
naturally,
lots of comics as usual, mostly just comics.
Yeah, but if that's something you're interested in, there's a lot of good stuff coming up. So. Yeah,
and a lot of those comics are good. So
So we're going to go ahead, though, and get into our community discussion. So this was several weeks ago, but we hadn't used it yet, so we'll go ahead and use this. But my question for you is that while we wait for the release of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, let's talk Star Wars video games. If you could design the perfect Star Wars video game, what would it be? What kind of style would it be? Would it be first-person shooter, third-person RPG, etc.? And what would it be about? We got 3 answers this week, and that is the first one is from Josh and Berkshaw, aka JB. And JB. He says, I have always fancied a Star Wars game in the style of Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Become Human, or Heavy Rain. It doesn't have to be a Jedi lead. It could be maybe becoming a Mandalorian, or maybe you're a trooper in the Imperial Army. And this could be your story on defecting. I mainly like the idea of a game this way because you could get some really good fighting scenes where you need to complete the actions. This would be really cool. But also you could have alternate ways the story pans out. I just think it would be something different and a bit cool. So yeah, JB, I love those type of games where it's kind of like quick time events, but it's also like individual like choices like really dictate your ending, and I love that.
I absolutely adore choice based video games. I loved the Knights of the Old Republic. Which that the Knights of the Old Republic had a very like light and dark. It was very, you were either super good or super bad.
One choice might throw you over the edge.
There wasn't like a whole lot of gray area. And then you had Mass Effect, which is what the games that BioWare went on to make after that, which were phenomenal and continued in that same path. I would love to see, that continued in a Star Wars game, but a little more like less just light side or dark side. Like let's throw in a little bit more gray area in there.
Yeah, I remember when you played Detroit Becoming Human or Become Human, whatever. And that game was so good. There was just so many different alternatives of like you could choose one slightly different thing and the whole story could change. And I think that would be really cool.
You know, the people that made that game are technically still working on a Star Wars game.
Technically, yeah. So we'll see what that ends up being.
If that ever actually
so
comes.
So JB, your answers could be, or your prayers could be answered.
Your prayers could be answered.
Great one there, JB. Corey Allen Wise says, give me a game where you start as a Padawan and you are assigned a Jedi Master to train you, and you go with him on missions until you gain the rank of Master. Once you do that, it's an open world. You pick your race, customize your lightsaber, your ship, travel the galaxy doing missions until you learn of a powerful Sith trying to rule the galaxy as he hunts Jedi. It's up to you to fight the Sith, kill him, and save the galaxy. You're able to go from planet to planet, doing side quests, helping planets and people, doing quests, learning the ways of the Force. And early in the game, you decide if you want to walk the path of the Jedi or walk the path of the Sith. And then your job is to hunt down every Jedi in your path, leaving nothing but darkness and destruction in your path. So, I mean, yeah, I mean that would be a huge game. I mean, an absolutely massive game.
You know, I would love some games have kind of gone down this path. Again, I think Knights of the Republic, has done a lot of what is being said there to a smaller degree. Yeah. But also the Old Republic, which was the MMO, where you could choose to be a Sith or a Jedi, and you would go to the temple and kind of like start out, and then it kind of. You can fly to all different planets and all that stuff. So it kind of starts to kind of do some of that. But I understand what you're saying there, where you're taking it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us want that, like that Padawan, start as a Padawan, and get a Jedi Master, and like learn that relationship, and then you end up becoming a Jedi Knight. The whole experience, right, is kind of what that's everyone's dream to some extent.
Sure.
And it's, I think of the recent Hogwarts Legacy.
Don't be taking my answer, okay? I was going to talk about that.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'm just kidding. I mean, I wasn't.
I won't say too much then. But I just, in the way that has created the experience that everybody wanted. For those that are Hogwarts fans, Harry Potter fans. It's that idea of you go to class and learn the spells and everything.
Right.
They've kind of created that dream, and I think that we need somebody to do that for Star Wars. Is all I'll say.
Sure.
You can expand on it further.
Yeah. So I'll hold off on that because that's basically one of my answers. But anyway, last but not least, Anthony James Johnson says, well, I love Empire at War and its mods to this day.
Okay.
So it would be a sequel to that. One with multi-era modes for prequel, OT, and sequel material, as well as a grand progressive campaign in which you can choose between the EU or current canon, with a final customization option to choose units, characters, characters or factions from both in a sandbox. I can't even speak. Holy cow. In a sandbox-esque level building system. So, Anthony, that's a great answer. And it's funny and that's what's so awesome is that for me, I'm not someone who likes that type of game at all. It's kind of like that real-time strategy. I've never liked that. But that's the cool thing is that like with these community discussions that we get like exposed to like so many different types of thoughts, because I have some friends that do like real-time strategy, but man, for me, I have no interest.
Well, I used to play Empire at War on a really junky computer that could not actually handle the game.
Yeah.
And so like my experience with it was like I would get to play it. I would play it and the frame rate's just chugging, and then like it would crash like guaranteed crash on me after just a little bit because my computer couldn't actually play the game, but I would like try to force it to.
Yeah.
So that's my experience, but I was at that age where I would just like play anything Star Wars.
Yeah,
it didn't matter.
Absolutely.
It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that would be cool. It would be cool to get an RTS game in Star Wars again.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we've had a new one, and there is a fan base for those types of things. And Star Wars,
sure.
And Star Wars is a perfect IP for that.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the different eras and all the different types of armies, and it's a perfect group for that.
Absolutely.
I would like to see the XCOM developers give a stab at it. I think that would be kind of cool to see them kind of do their take on Star Wars. But
in terms of the RTS game style and stuff like that, it would be cool to see how the the Imperial Army would face off against the like the Confederate, army or Confederacy. I can't. Separatists. Wow. Thinking of the Civil War. Anyway, but the different armies like in different settings and how they would fare against each other, like that would be really interesting. So yeah, that's a great answer, and thank you to each and every one of you who gave an answer there. So for me personally, it kind of does actually fall in line with a little bit with what Corey was saying and what we were already discussing. And I actually had said this either again last episode or the live stream that we did. And long story short, I think it would be so fun to get a game like Hogwarts Legacy, but in Star Wars. I'm not going to say it doesn't quite fit this, but like in the anime world, you have animes that are just called slice of life, which it doesn't have the craziest story. There's not like tons of action, but it's slice of life. You just like everyday life of a person, and so it kind of falls into gaming. You have games such as Hogwarts Legacy where yes, there's a pretty cool story to it, but it's not that crazy. It's not that story focused or based. It's mostly like what is the daily life of a Hogwarts student, in their fifth year. So again, another game like that is Spider-Man on PlayStation. I say PS5, but it's on PS4 too. Again, it wasn't the craziest story in the whole world, but it was like a perfect example of what the daily life and the little decisions every day that Spider-Man has to make. And so again, I think that would be amazing to have a game like that in Star Wars, where let's just take that scenario, Corey, where you're a student, you're a Padawan, or you're a Padawan learner, you're about to become a Jedi. Long story short, I think it'd be really cool to get some of that, or even if it's even further on, maybe you're a Jedi Knight and you're in the Order and you're going on missions and stuff. Would I love a huge story that went all over the place and had these amazing plot twists? Yeah, absolutely. But I think that is something that Star Wars has never had, is just a slice of life type game where you just feel the everyday life of a Jedi in the Jedi Order, Yeah. I think that'd be really, really cool. I could go more into that, but we're chugging along on our time here. But Drew, what would be the perfect Star Wars game for you? What style, what era, what type of gameplay?
I wish I could say that I have some super original idea that's not what we've already been talking about, but that just wouldn't be true.
Right.
For me, it's the idea of kind of a mix of what we have seen in like Hogwarts Legacy and Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect. These games kind of, also even like, what was that game we talked about earlier from the Heavy Rain developers? Detroit Become Human. Something kind of all of those mixed together and then even improved upon even more so.
Yeah.
This idea of a RPG choice-based game with lots of dialogue. I love games with lots of dialogue choices, all of that. I'm a big fan of that. And just to kind of put it into what I imagine is like, you are at the temple, right? I think for me, the High Republic era would be best.
Sure.
You're in the High Republic era. You're a Padawan. You're going to class. You're learning.
Yeah.
But then you do go on missions with your master. For example, it could be you're investigating a murder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
kind
you
of
go,
like the Acolyte type.
Yeah,
thing, right?
you go like to a murder site and you're looking for clues and you make choices on who you think it is, and you can make the wrong choice. You can take the wrong person to jail.
Flashbacks to Dantooine.
And then you become a Jedi Knight, and then let's say you go on your first diplomatic mission where you go and you're trying to ease relations between two different planets or something, maybe, right. Or they're trying to be at war, and you're trying to prevent
the native species versus the people who come in,
and
or
it's
whatever.
And again, like your choices completely affect the outcome of those people, those societies, and I just think there's so much. that you can do, and that's not even talking about like combat and lightsabers and just like all the fun stuff you could do with that.
And I was gonna say in the High Republic, era is the perfect time to do it because other than like the Nile and stuff, it is categorically one of the most peaceful times in Star Wars that we know of canonically right now. And so it makes sense that like there's not a huge big bad right now. There's not a huge big struggle. There's just a lot of little things that pop up that you have to go deal with. And yes, you could have a larger narrative story attached to that, but I think it's a perfect medium, a perfect era in which you can experience that kind of slice of life, just everyday life type thing.
Well, we live in this time of, live action or live as a service video games. Okay.
Right.
Now, you love or hate them. They're there. They exist, and they have become very popular.
Sure.
A lot of them fail, but there are some super big success stories.
Yeah.
And I think that if you did it right, a game like this could kind of be that way. Maybe there is multiplayer to an extent. Maybe you can go on missions together or something. I would want it to stay somewhat
It's not like a big MMORPG type thing.
But maybe certain missions you can go play together, but I would want to keep it fairly solo.
Kind of like a Destiny type thing almost.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good system.
Because single... stories suffer if you have too much multiplayer sometimes.
Yeah.
They've not figured out how to make that work, typically.
It's like you're on this big mission, and here comes the conclusion, and there's like 20 people standing around the end goal. And it has to load in for each person.
Something I've seen a lot is in multiplayer games, you can't... They can't, like, have you... they can't make it like a Hollywood blockbuster as much as they normally can. And like, for example, like a Naughty Dog game, it feels like you're in a movie the whole time you play those. They can't really do that when you got like 3 people playing with you. So instead, all of the story is told in like dialogue as you play or in just a cutscene. And I'm not a big fan of that, but, so what I think it would be cool to kind of go down that path with it and be able to have friends, but also still focus on a single player story.
Right.
And I think that, but with a live service type game, you could release more content as you go, more stories, right? So you could release a DLC, consistent DLC where you go on more missions. It's like, oh, guess what? Now there's a new mission. Yeah. There's a new diplomatic mission in this system, in this planet, or there's a new mystery to go. And it could build towards something bigger eventually. But if you did it right, you could take your time with that and just grow it and expand it.
I agree.
But that's all just dreams.
It's never gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen. It's gonna be something. They're gonna keep releasing like every once in a while a good game, and then they're just gonna keep releasing
mobile game.
Like trash. Oh, lots of mobile games. We'll get
tons of mobile games.
We'll always get lots of those.
And then something cool is gonna be announced, and then get canceled. And
I mean, Jedi. So Jedi Fallen Order is one of the best things we've gotten as far as Star Wars games in a long time. But let's be real, like it's not
the most amazing game in the world.
It's not the most amazing game in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's far better than, because it's Star Wars, it's far better to me than it would be had it been anything else and been that game.
I agree.
But there's so much more they can do, and so somebody just get on it, okay? There's a bunch of Star Wars games in the works. We're not seeing them, so if we're not even seeing them yet, they're still a long ways away. So anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys so much for your answers. We really appreciate it. Again, the listener interaction and the follower interaction is seriously the best part of this whole thing. We say it every week, or you wish. We wish, whatever. We say it every time we record. But it is it is true. The interaction is the best. We always just greatly appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to answer these questions. But let's get into the final piece here, and that is our main topic, which is the review, the spoiler review of episodes 1 and 2 of season 3 of Mandalorian, which is technically chapter 17 and chapter 18. So again, as usual, when we do spoiler reviews of things, it is spoiler reviews, and we're just going to hop right into it, and we're going to kind of talk concurrently with our feelings about the episode along with the episode's contents itself, so be warned. So, episode 1 of season 3, which is chapter 17, The Apostate, is directed by Rick Famuyiwa. And
which he's directed past episodes of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So it's cool to have him back. He's one of the few that's back, actually.
Yes.
I think we have a lot of new directors this season, if I remember correctly from the list I've looked at.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Dave Filoni, at least as far as what the list I saw, Dave Filoni is not directing this. I think he's been busy with Ahsoka.
Bryce Dallas Howard is coming back, though. So
okay. Well, and she did the Mando episode in Boba Fett, and it was very good.
I agree. Yeah. So, like I said, just jumping into the first episode, which is Chapter 17, The Apostate. Again, I'll just go ahead and say right off the bat, this is maybe not the perfect episode, but contrasting against our complaints with Episode 1 of Bad Batch Season 2, basically, this is how you do it. When you want to come in, you want to reintroduce people to your characters. You want to kind of give you a refresher of what the story's at, blah blah blah. But this is how you do it, in my opinion. It's not the perfect episode, but I think this is a kind of textbook. Like, this is how you do it on Episode 1 of a new season.
Sure. I think they handled it well. I know I've seen some people say, well, it was all just about catching you up, and
that's usually
blah,
what
blah,
the first
blah.
episode usually is.
But in their complaint is like, and they shouldn't have done all that stuff in Book of Boba Fett. They should have had it in Mando. But we've had those arguments. We've talked about
right.
You can't think about them being separate things. You really need to think about them as the essentially the same series. Almost,
right. Oh yeah.
It's
like a little sub chapter or something.
Right.
It's not actually a Boba Fett show.
But I'll say when this episode started, we start with the little boy.
Yeah. I thought it was Din
Djarin. Did you think maybe it was Din Djarin? Because
yes,
I did. Because there's nothing that tells us really what, other than the armor being there, and she's like,
yeah.
But you don't really know how old she is.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if that was we were seeing like the origins of that, but it wasn't, because so I don't know about you, but I kind of thought this was funny because you get this big crocodile thing. I don't know what they call it, but big old space gator.
Which is funny. I'm on this description here. They call it the dinosaur turtle.
Okay.
I don't know that it's
that,
but
dinosaur turtle. But I thought it was funny because it attacks, and like you got all these Mandalorians, and they're just getting
wrecked,
butts kicked.
It's embarrassing.
I was like,
they don't realize until like 3/4 through the fight that they can start flying.
Yeah, I was like, this. All of these Mandalorians cannot take down one space gator. Like they need to train more or something. But then we find out for sure that it's not Mando there, because Mando comes swooping in to save the day.
Yeah,
and just blows up that gator, like guts everywhere.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious for a Disney Plus
guts.
show, right?
Yeah.
So I will say, I don't know, maybe I'm just looking too far into this, but I thought it was kind of maybe a cool little, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not subliminal. It's subtle way, I guess, to show that maybe like Mando's moved past the children of, or what are they called? Children of the Watch, is that what their like little group's called?
The Death Watch or whatever.
Well, it's not the Death Watch. I think it's Children of the Watch, because like they're the group that always keeps their helmets on. Because Death Watch is
Death Watch is what it like birthed out of.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think they're called Children of the Watch. I
something
believe.
Like that. I don't know.
Long story short, their group, right? I think it's like a subtle way to show like he's like moved past them and he's doing better without them, type of thing, because they're sitting there doing their ritual, they're doing their classic thing, and they're struggling, and also he comes in with his new ship, he comes in with his new fighting tactics and styles, so to speak, and then single-handedly wipes it out. I don't know, I thought that was just kind of like a interesting little nod for it.
Sure.
So he destroys that, and basically he's coming back kind of one last time to the armor and just be like, hey, I want to be back in the fold, I want to be a Mandalorian again. And basically the armor looks at him and says, there's no way to redeem yourself. And he's like, well, hold on now, because if I can go bathe in the waters
in the living waters
of Mandalore. And he's like, well, it doesn't exist anymore. And so basically it's his mission. He's like, I'm going to go back to Mandalore. I'm going to find the living waters. I'm going to bathe in it. I'm going to prove it to you, and I will then be redeemed. And she said, this is the way, So he starts off on that quest.
But first they make a little little
But they do make a pit stop there. Yes.
to Navarro, which this just cracked me up when we see Carl Weathers, Grief Karga, and he's straight up got two little droids that hold his cape
carrying
up.
His cape. It's so stupid. But he goes from like a scum lord bounty hunter dealer to all of a sudden like this. What is it, Grand Lord or whatever he calls himself?
High Magistrate.
High Magistrate. Yeah, he's like Magistrate. High Magistrate.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, it's pretty cool that, with Mando's help and his leadership that they've turned Navarro in this like beautiful oasis.
Yeah. He's had a lot of success there.
Yeah, if you go back to the first time you see it compared to the time it is now, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and you see the quacky and monkey lizards are now in the trees hanging out instead of being cooked.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's cool.
I liked visiting there. It's always good to see Carl Weathers. But what's interesting about that is that he is saying he goes there because he needs a droid. He needs IG-11 back.
Yeah.
Which is it was an interesting choice to try to get him back. I think they said he needs a droid he can trust, right? So that was why it was. That was what it was, because he has that thing against droids.
Yeah. Which is also another kind of interesting subtle thing of like how he's like taking care of R5 later on, and it's like versus season 1, episode 1, he like hated droids. And it's like this kind of interesting progression. But
he asks Mando he's like, why don't you just like stay and you can be the marshal, and
offer to give him like a big plot of land and a home and all this stuff.
Well, he's like, well, why not what's the woman's name?
What's
her name?
I know her real name, Gina Carano, but
anyway, Gina Carano's character.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, she's actually now with the
she got recruited by the special
and,
forces,
and so they kind of wrote her off.
Just brushed it off.
Honestly, I'm almost surprised they referenced her at all.
Yeah,
but they did.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they brought in the character. You gotta give some explanation to your character.
Yeah, because I was curious what they would do about that. But
yeah, anyway.
But
yeah, so long story short, it's kind of interesting because they've created, especially Grief. He's made this kind of scumbag place into this beautiful oasis now, but the past of how they both lived their lives previously is starting to try to catch up with them again. We see glimpses of that old life where all of a sudden now these pirates who used to kind of shack up with them and be their buddies, and they went bounty hunting together and stuff like that, are now coming back. And they're kind of creating this ruckus because they're trying to go into this bar, but what used to be a bar is now created into a school. And, it's just kind of interesting contrast of like what it used to be like to what it is now.
And I've heard some people predicting that school is where the group from Skeleton Crew is going to come from.
Oh,
because they come from some kind of school or something.
Yeah. Huh.
I don't know if there's any credit or like any merit to that, but it's just like some fans have been predicting that that'd be
an interesting little tie-in. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, again, it's like them confronting their old lives, essentially, right? Their old ways of operating. And basically, he says, you can't go in there. I'm sorry, it's a school now. And he's like, I'm going to drink in this place. The only reason you're even where you're at is because of the treasures we helped you get. And so there's a showdown, and of course, Mando and even Grief, and in all of his robes, pulls out a gun, and they take him down. But basically, the very long story short on Navarro is that they try to get IG-11 put back together, and they're unable to do that because all of a sudden IG-11 turns on, and he defaulted back to his original programming.
Well, but they take him to the Anzellans.
I thought that was afterwards. But
I thought it was when they took it. Was it not when they took it?
Well, because I thought they took it to him because they really needed the best people to repair him. Maybe it doesn't matter. I think it runs concurrently, right? But basically, IG-11 is trying to kill him now. He reverted back to his old ways.
Yeah.
So they take him to the
Anzellans,
yeah, and which is the
little Babu Fricks,
little Babu Fricks, which
none
great
of them appeared. Didn't appear any of them were Babu Frick, which I don't know why. They should have just had him be Babu Frick.
I mean, there's like no reason for him to be there, but why not, right? And it's a bunch of Anzellans, so might as well. So we had some fun interactions with them and Grogu, of course.
Grogu tries to hug one of them.
No squeeze. No squeeze.
Bad baby. Bad baby.
Bad baby. No squeeze. Dude, that was so good.
Yeah, I had a good time with that. Yeah.
So basically, they tell him like the only way to do this is if they get some sort of memory core, and so they leave, and he's going back to Tatooine because he knows that if anyone can find something, it's the Ewoks and what's her face. So he goes over there, and basically they tell him.
Well, and so you've I think you've jumped into the second episode.
I may have. Oh, I did. Yeah, sorry.
Because before he does that, he goes and sees Bo-Katan.
Well, even before that, he's leaving the... That's why we can't do two episodes.
Yeah, I know. No, even before that's the dogfight.
Yeah, so he leaves Navarro, and basically that one pirate that he didn't kill runs back to his posse, so to speak, and... basically, he's trying to escape, but they're fighting, and so there's a dog fight, and we see a very interesting character.
You get seaweed pirate
boy.
man.
His name is Gorian Shard. But I don't know. Is this a species that we've seen before? Because if so, I'm not super familiar with it.
I don't think we've ever seen it.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a little cheesy, but you know what? I think it's kind of cool though.
I read some people saying that like. It was so jarring
to
go from Andor, to the Mando, and with like that pirate thing, and it's just they're two completely different like shows,
And again, I know people are like, well, it's so arbitrary, but like that's what I felt like Andor was missing. Like that's what made Star Wars is the aliens and the kind of
right. Andor was good, but like the Mandalorian is.
It is Star Wars. It is Star Wars.
100% Star Wars.
And this is what I will say right now is like people are like, well, how can you not like Andor? It's such a great show. In terms of writing, Andor may very well be way better written, and the character development may be way better character development in Andor. But to me, it was a really good show. Like I've already said it before, but it wasn't a great Star Wars show. Mandalorian may not be the greatest show, but it is a great Star Wars show. Right. So anyway, that's my little plug there. But yes, long story short, so that he escapes them.
Yeah, and this dogfight was actually really good, and I don't feel like we've gotten a whole lot of those in the Mandalorian, but this one was like really well done.
And it was showing his ship. It was kind of showing it off again.
Yeah, and the ship is just so cool,
way better than all of their stuff.
Stinking cool.
Yeah. And so, last but not least, the last thing that we see in episode 1 or chapter 17 was him going to meet Bo-Katan at the old Mandalorian castle, and basically, because she lost the Darksaber, everyone that followed her abandoned her because they thought she was unfit or whatever. And
she just likes to sit on that throne and
just pout.
Yeah.
So, but basically, last but not, he was trying to tell her his intentions, and basically said that that Mandalore is not poisoned as everybody thought. It's not dead. It's still living. It's still good. The Empire couldn't take everything away from Mandalore. So that's basically where
because so far everyone's saying, oh, you can't even go to Mandalore. It's you can't even breathe there. It's poisoned.
Surface is
all
poisoned.
This stuff. It's cursed. Blah blah blah. Yeah, and that's where it ends. So then, so then we go into the second episode, and
this is chapter 18 called Mines of Mandalore.
The Mines of Mandalore.
And go ahead.
Well, so in that one we start with
we get to where I had jumped ahead.
Yeah. Where if you want to go ahead and take us down.
Well,
that road.
So basically he realizes he still needs a droid. He wanted IG-11, but he couldn't get IG-11 because. Because he needed the memory core, so he goes to Tatooine to go back to Peli Motto or whatever her name is, because he knows if anyone can find this part, it's probably her or the
you always gotta show up and visit Peli for a little bit. That's like a Mandalorian staple at this point.
At this point,
and and one of the first things is Grogu does like a front flip out of the thing into her arms.
She's like, whoa.
Yeah, and she's all
Where'd you learn that from?
And Grogu's like, bleh, bleh, you know, like does little starts to like try to talk.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, he said my name.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I think he said Pelly. Yeah. So yeah, long story short, you know, it's a side note and it's so minor, but I love that they're like trying to show that Grogu is developing. He's not just some stupid baby Yoda anymore. You know, not that he's stupid, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I can't believe you just called him stupid. You're gonna get canceled,
I'm gonna
bro.
have to self-flagellate.
You're so gonna get canceled.
No, but I'm saying what I'm going to say is that he wasn't just like this kind of like useless character that he had to tote around. Now he's learned about the Force and he can flip around like Yoda did. He's starting to try to talk. I mean, so there's progression.
Yeah. So they end up getting R5 or R4. Which one is it?
R5.
R5. And I think we've talked about it before, but R5 has an interesting story.
Yeah. I think we said it, but it was a while back.
R5 was in A New Hope and was the droid that Luke Skywalker was going to get.
Yeah.
And then the head gasket blew or something, or
well,
whatever
he
they
did it
call
on purpose, remember?
But yeah, well, that's yeah. So he gets R2D2 instead. Well, you find out in from a certain point of view, A New Hope, that that R2D2 is telling R5, please, you have to, you can't go with him. It has to be me.
Save the galaxy.
Yeah, like I have, it's very important, you know, and all this stuff. And so R5 basically sacrifices its chance so that R2 can do it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of
really
cool. But what kind of was interesting about what we see from R5 here is he is just a straight up coward.
He's kind of cowardly.
Which wasn't really how the book portrayed him. So, but anyway, it's a small complaint.
Yeah.
But it is cool that kind of see that character, and that character makes a very small appearance in the prequel trilogy as well.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what? And if we're talking about small complaints, I noticed that the Jawa's eyes were animated. Instead of being like, whoa, a little close there, sorry. Instead of being like the little like yellow Coke bottle ends like they usually have, it was animated in, and I'm like, I don't know, that's just weird, and maybe it wasn't, but it really looked animated.
Yeah. So see, you text me about that, and I did not notice it. And I actually haven't went back and looked, but nothing stood out to me, but it could have just been, I just wasn't paying any attention. Yeah,
it was just like something that kind of like, I don't know why I even noticed it. It just kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, whoa, why does their eyes look different? And I'm like, wait a second, their eyes are not like a prop anymore. It's like, it looks like they're animated in there, or they're CGI'd in there, but it's something random.
Interesting.
But yeah. So anyway, something just stupid and minor, but basically she retrofits his ship with the droid pit again, and gives him R5. So they go to the Mandalore and told R5 to scout ahead, of course, trying to soothe his trepidations. He's scared to go out there, but he's like, get your butt out there and go check for the atmosphere to see if it's poisonous or not. Well, naturally, R5 goes around the corner and goes offline, disappears. And so Mando's like begrudgingly like, oh, okay, fine, I'll have to go out after him, but, tells Grogu to seal himself into his pod. And so he goes after him. And basically, he's going into these mines, these Mandalorian mines that were abandoned, but you're seeing this like cataclysmic destruction that came from the Empire glassing the planet, basically. Yeah. And so as he's kind of, as he's kind of like walking through and looking for R5, he gets attacked out of nowhere from what's called the Alamites, a native troll-like species. Which is, again, that's probably something we've seen before, but I just don't recall them. Yeah, you know what I thought of every time I saw one of them? What's that? Predator. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every time I saw one, I kind of see that. Yeah. I don't know what it was about. Maybe the hairstyle or something like they had going on, but something about them always made me think of the Predator. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, again, something, even if they are canon and we've already known about them, is something that we don't rarely have ever seen. If they were, I mean, maybe they're like a Legends thing or something, but as far as I know, they weren't canon until now. But. Yeah. So basically, through some effort, Mando does defeat them with the help of the Darksaber, which is pretty cool to see him wield that again. But again, it's it's very heavy for him.
Very heavy for him, and he's struggling with
which
it.
is an interesting thing we'll come back to later on.
Uh-huh.
So he finds R5, he goes back, he sends him back, right? I can't remember. Yeah, he sends R5 back, but he goes a little bit further into the mines, and basically there's like this little beast thing that's like in this like robotic suit. And no, I'm sorry. He goes back to the ship and gets Grogu.
He goes back to the ship and gets Grogu,
Yeah. And they determine that it's not poisonous.
It's not poisonous.
Yeah. So anyway, they go back into the mine.
And you see the little crocodile, flying crocodile things sitting in the like sides of the... It keeps going back to them. The little like pterodactyl things.
Oh yeah, it's like some sort of symbolic thing. I'm not entirely sure.
It looked kind of like a crocodile, but it can fly. But anyway, a lot of crocodiles in this series.
A lot of crocodiles. I don't know what's going on.
A lot of gators.
He's a gator fan. Long story short, so they go back into the mine. They're looking for the water, living waters, and basically Mando gets attacked by this big robot, but it's actually some kind of little beastly thing that's inside this robot, but it cages him up. And
what a strange contraption.
A weird thing. Yeah. It has like this really very human-esque eye inside of it. And
it seems like it has a organic eye.
It's like an organic being inside of this cybernetic system, right?
Right. And so it captures them, which is and then it's this big crab thing, and it's walking, and it goes through, and then it's like rib cage is like a trap. It's like a cage
thing,
and then it like goes and stops. Then it comes out of that, and then it's like walking around this thing,
and it puts itself into another like smaller body.
Yeah, basically. But then later on, we see it even comes out of that into an even smaller thing.
So basically, he trapped Mando, and Mando tells, So first of all,
Grogu follows
him,
and Grogu's watching, and one of the best moments yet of the season, in my opinion, is seeing Grogu scurry from one rock to the next. I'm telling you, if you missed it or you didn't really pay attention, go back and watch that part where he scurries from one rock to the other. And it is the most hilarious thing ever. The way they made him just like his little feet like running as fast as he can is just...
Insert the sound Mr. Krabs sounds like when he walks.
It is so hilarious. I died when I saw that.
But he's clearly trying to use the Force to open this contraption. And just as he's about to like make some headway, some sort of sound like clanks, and so that little beastly thing, he comes running at him, and he's like, run out, get out of here, go to Bo-Katan. And so he run, he's like force jumping away.
He jumps back into his little
his little pod. That's kind of hilarious. And he's like zooms out of there,
and it flies back up, and then the gator flying things chases him. And he gets in right before it reaches. And so
what's interesting is he goes to Bo-Katan's castle, right? And madam, there's an unscheduled visitor. And she's like, it was interesting because like, all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to get rid of him one last time.
She said once and for all,
like,
I think.
Whoa, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, though, when she sees Grogu by himself, she begins to soften up a little bit.
Of course. I mean, who wouldn't?
But what's funny is that, as she goes back to rescue Mando, the whole attitude changes. Like all of a sudden, anyway, she goes from like, I'm going to end this once and for all to I'm going to go save him. And like actually is concerned for him, like, when she goes to rescue him.
Yeah. My guess with that is that she wasn't really ever showing her true emotion. Like, I think what this says more than anything is that she cares a lot more for him than she's been letting on.
Sure.
And like she's been acting tough and stuff, but clearly she doesn't actually want to see him.
Well, and it's more of like, I think that like she's just disappointed that everyone abandoned her. She doesn't have this the Darksaber anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so she goes back. And it's funny, we get the same kind of scene over and over again of them going into and you never know what to expect.
Yeah, it changes every time.
It changes every time, but it's interesting that they keep like, you go into the dark tunnel and you have to wait and see what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But those things come out again.
Yeah.
But
she's like, what's cool is that unlike Mando, she's like already aware of it, and she like looks up and sees them in the ceiling. Just preemptively blows up the ceiling until they fall out and just kicks their butt, which was pretty cool.
And she wields the
not yet.
No, that's not yet.
Not yet.
Just kidding.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
So, but anyway, she kicks her butt. It was just kind of cool to see like their different styles. And then when she kicks their butt, she's like, looks at Grogu and she's like, "What, you thought your dad was the only Mandalorian?" Which I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, and she's clearly a very skilled fighter and stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's funny because as we've seen with Mando, is he's very much a brute. Like brute force.
Oh yeah.
Like he just takes hits. Like
he don't care.
He'll let people hit him. He'll let people shoot him. Whatever. I mean, how many shots has he taken?
Dude,
you know what I mean?
That one scene from season 2 when he's just tanking all the shots was so cool.
And it's like he just gets shot, whatever, and then he takes him out. Like he doesn't try to like avoid.
No, well, he's Beskar. Why?
He doesn't try to avoid
to?
getting hit, and that's what's I think one of the biggest difference in their fighting styles. Like when he was doing it, they were just like. They just kept hitting him and stuff, but I mean, he still won. Yeah. But he was getting, he just kept getting beat up. But
with her, it's all finesse. She's dodging and using her shield and stuff.
Right.
Very cool.
Oh, and that's cool. Yeah, she's got that little shield.
Yeah. So then, long story short, they make it back to where Mando's trapped, and as we come around the corner, though, he's pulling the beastly thing is pulling blood out of Mando, which is kind of interesting here. I'm not sure what is he going to use that for.
I don't know. We need more answers on this weird skeleton.
What is this
crab thing?
Yeah. So so she he goes off to the side or whatever and tries to she's over there trying to save him, and basically that little beastly thing comes in a smaller body and she's like fighting him off and defeats him. And
when he defeats him is with the sword, or is that after?
I thought it was after.
Or is it only one that gets the big?
Yeah, I thought it was after but I could be wrong.
Remember.
Basically, she beats him, and when she thought he was dead and goes back to save Mando, its little head crawls off to the big thing, and he's trying to say something to her, and she's like, "What are you trying to say?" And he's like behind you, and all of a sudden, like bam, like this huge crab thing, and I think that's when she grabs the Darksaber. And very interesting kind of juxtaposition was that where Mando was like, it was so heavy and it was so unwieldy and hard to use. She was just flicking it around
she wields it like it's nothing,
and she was like, but clearly she already knows how to use it. She's had it before, and she's kind of have that. She doesn't have the self-doubt that Mando does about being a Mandalorian. I think that plays into it a little bit. And she's just using her shield and the Darksaber and just kicking butt.
That shield with the Darksaber combo is so cool.
Good.
It was so neat looking.
Yeah.
And then I did want to mention, we totally didn't mention it, but I want to give a shout out to Grogu when he's running back to the ship earlier.
Oh yeah,
at the very end of that,
one of the Amorites,
it come out and he force pushes him and shoves him out of the way.
Just boom.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool. So I want to mention that. But
yeah.
So after that, once he's saved, is when they finally go. Well,
what's so funny is like to him, he's like, I have to find the living waters, and she's like, that's what you want to find. Like to him, it's so mythical, and her just like, okay, it's whatever. It's just a pond. Yeah. I'll show you. I'll show you. Take you right there.
Where it's at.
And he's like, oh, okay.
Well, she's like, if I don't show you, you're going to be in here, wandering around.
So they finally get to the living waters, and before she can even say anything, dude starts taking his clothes off. And taking off.
He starts saying the creed or whatever.
Yeah, he starts taking the creed, and he's about he steps into the water to bathe in the living waters, and all of a sudden he gets pulled under the water, and we're like, oh crap, of course, like what is this? So she dives in after him to save him and stuff, and right as she grabs him at the bottom of this like lake, he starts to fly up, and as they start to fly up, they see the image of something, and lo and behold, it is a freaking mythosaur.
A mythosaur,
dude. And this is something that we have never seen in canon, and it's just so sick. And I know for a fact it's legends, but I don't know if they've brought the story itself into canon yet. But basically, how the original Mandalore.
Well, they do talk about it in maybe Book of Boba Fett. They talk about it, about how
I think so,
they used to ride.
Well, yeah, that they rode mythosaurs and stuff.
But what is extremely important to this. I mean, other than the fact that the mythosaur is there, and that's really really awesome.
Yeah.
But there is actually a prophecy though that they talked about in maybe also in the book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
That they dismissed as legend, which was kind of a little bit of a a little joke there.
Legend, yeah.
Because I remember we were both like, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to look up exactly what they said because I wanted to bring that up. Hold on a second. See if I can find it. I'm sure somebody's wrote about it somewhere. Because I think that this will give us an idea of where they're going with things.
Yeah.
Now that we know there is still a mythosaur down there, which I mean is going to be so cool when it finally comes out. And,
something we've never seen yet. Other than in Legends, right?
Which we know back in the first season, when Mando was trying to ride the blurg,
right.
Quills or whatever, however you say his name.
Yeah.
He said, "Your ancestors rode the great mythosaur."
Yeah,
right?
and you can't even ride a blurg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then also we seen how they talked about it. So in Book of Boba Fett, it said, I almost have it here. Whoever wields, so the first one was whoever wields the Darksaber can lead all of Mandalore, right? And so he had it, whatever. But the prophecy was the songs of eons past foretold of the mythosaur rising up to herald a new age of Mandalore, and that the person who does that or who has the sword and the mythosaur rises up, brings in a new age, and that person is now like the great leader of the right.
He's the new Mandalore, basically. Yeah.
And so it really seems to me like they are taking Din Djarin into that position. I think now that we've seen the mythosaur, it really makes me think that he is going to be the
right.
But
it could subvert it easily.
They could subvert it a couple different ways.
Yeah.
It could end up still being what's her face? Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
But there's one other thing.
Yeah.
There is a third. There is another. Grogu's there too, right? And
yeah,
I'm just saying the beast could be awakened because of Grogu, not because of
because there's connections with the Force and things of that nature.
But it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that. But I think the safe answer is it's Mando, and I think it would be really cool to see Mando riding the mythosaur with the Darksaber in hand,
right.
leading an army of Mandalorians.
Dude.
Because again, if my predictions are right, and this is all leading to an event that of mass proportions of that's going to be this big war against Thrawn and his army and all this stuff, then you're going to have Mando leading his army of Mandalorians. You got Boba riding his Rancor with all of his thugs and criminals underworld. Okay, and you start to see the different armies growing here, growing factions essentially, right? You got Ahsoka and her group. You just start to see these factions arising for this big event one day, I think. I mean, we'll see.
We'll see.
But I think that this image of Mando riding that and having, but they could subvert expectations, and it could all end up being Bo-Katan that gets to ride the mythosaur and have because I could see the thing with that where I find it hard to believe is I don't see Mando having any interest in leading. We've yet to see Mando have any interest in that.
Right.
If anything, he's wanted to kind of just do his own thing. But
granted, here's the thing, though. We continually see him do things that he's never wanted to do and go back. So, again, episode 1, season 1, he hates droids. Literally will not even look at a droid, not even abide a droid. Now he's taking care of R5 and bringing him along on adventures. So, I mean, who knows?
And sometimes the best leaders are the ones that don't necessarily want that responsibility, but they're the best ones to lead.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he could end up being that choice.
Yeah.
But I also think it'd be interesting to get Sabine in on here sometime this season.
I was going to say, well, we're going to get her Ahsoka.
We know we get her in Ahsoka, but I think it would be good to get her in Mando first.
Sure.
Because you could say the whole reason that Mandalore was destroyed was because Sabine gave Darksaber to, because the prophecy said that for someone to wield the Darksaber without winning it in battle would essentially destroy Mandalore and destroy the Mandalorians.
Right.
So when she gave that to her, and then it wasn't long after they got destroyed.
Very true.
So it's kind of in Sabine's at guilt here.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's like a co-guilt between Sabine and
like it's not completely, but like she plays a part in it. And I think it would be really interesting to get her involved in all of this to some extent so she can have something to say. But anyway, I think we have spoken long enough. Do you have any closing comments?
We have spoken. No, honestly, like I said, I think this opens up to a lot of really neat things that we're going to see and experience in this new season. And, again, they're already pulling things from not necessarily from Legends, but it's pulling from things that we've never seen before.
Yeah,
things that we were.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's the big takeaway I would say of everything so far. We do not realize what this season is truly about yet.
Oh yeah,
and the reason I say that is this whole idea of him going to Mandalore and has it been what they've been talking about? But he's already done it all already.
Well, yeah. So
we're
think
only
about
in the second episode, and he's done it. He's done everything.
Previous seasons, it was like find Grogu's people. We know who the big bad is, which is blah 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 blah. But this season, we don't really have a big bad. We don't have a main objective in this season so far. So it's like, what's to come?
Yeah, I think they're keeping their hand close to their chest, but I think this episode 3 is probably going to hit us off on what this episode or what the season is really doing, because again, it's like he's already kind of done his little redemption quest, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
He already went and bathed in the living waters. Yeah. So of course now we're going to know the Mythosaur exists and stuff, but the whole idea of this being centered around Mandalore, I don't necessarily know is exactly true.
Yeah.
But we do know, the only other thing that we know about that we haven't seen yet is like the tease of the cloning guy. You know, what was, I don't remember what his name was.
In season 2?
The cloning guy he's in both seasons, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
The guy that always wanted Grogu and stuff. We see him in a teaser, one of the teasers. We see him, and we see him in Coruscant. And so maybe we get that in episode 3, but I think there's a lot more at play here we don't even realize yet, and I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool things to come. And again, I think that the reason that they're keeping their hands so close to their chests here is because there's big things coming.
Yes, so, I think big.
Fingers crossed. Keep our hopes up here.
The other thing we've seen that we saw in the teaser we haven't seen yet is more of the Jedi, the attack on the temple. So we know there's more of that coming.
Kind of delving into Grogu's mind.
Very exciting. Look, the potential there.
So excited.
Who's coming back? I'm just kidding. I mean, that would be so cool, but I'm not getting my hopes up.
Right.
Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for being a part. Thank you all for listening. If you're still with us, type 1, 2, 3, 4 in the comments. We want to know how many of you make it all the way to the end.
And if you skip to the end, don't do it. Type 0, 3, 2, 1.
But no, we appreciate you guys so much. Hopefully you enjoyed this extra long episode. It has been a while, and unfortunately we are going to be gone again for another 2 weeks, but we'll be back on the 30th to record another episode, and so we'll give you our thoughts on the next couple episodes then. So make sure you stick around. We're gonna have lots of fun, but thank you guys so much. A special big shout out and thanks to our Patreon producers for all you guys do for us. And make sure you like us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Like, share. When we make a post, go ahead, just share it to all your friends and let them know we exist. That always helps us too. But we love you all, and may the Force be with you. And we thank you for joining the Jedi.